You know, it's one of those things where I always tell people we're going to be successful because we're willing to do it longer than anyone else is. We had an in-person event, 35 chiropractors 2 weeks ago. It was amazing. And I said, if someone says no to you guys, what happens next? And the room went silent. And I was like, that's the problem. And for us, it's like, if someone says no, it's like, good. That's why we have jobs.
Hey, what's up, Smart Chiropractors? Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. We are back for another interview, and today we're talking with Dr. Justin Rabinowitz of Strive to Move Chiropractic and the Rehab Chiro Mastermind. We're going to talk business, we're going to talk clinical, everything in between. Justin, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today.
Appreciate being here, and I'm ready to go.
I want to trace it back. We're going to talk about the intersection of clinical success and business success, which is where you live, where you coach, where you teach. I want to get there. But before we do, I know a lot of docs listening are interested in sports and rehab. Where did your passion from it start?
Similar story to most. Athlete all my life, college baseball player, fractured my back in high school playing football. And at that point, I went through and sort of was exposed to the medical system where it was like, wear a brace for 4 weeks and then take it off and you're good. And I always say like the you're good was the thing that killed me, to the point of getting to chiropractic school. I was halfway through. Went up for a layup, came down. All of a sudden, at the time, I didn't know what it was. My whole leg goes numb. I end up having like 0 out of 5 dorsiflexion on a big toe, end up having a laminectomy, discectomy. And so I've been sort of on that journey this whole time and exposed to just, as a patient, like how bad it can actually be from people that we should quote unquote trust. So, you know, I'm excited and thankful that we have the ability here to oftentimes like, I should get surgery. And it's like, well, no, you don't actually need it. And to stop sort of what happened to me in our practice, you know, that's a really, really cool thing.
Justin, you have focused on, you know, you mentioned a lot about docs who are focused on rehab. They want to be clinical experts. You imply sometimes that means that they are experts, perhaps at the expense of business skills. We talked about how you're really bringing them both together, world-class clinical care, world-class business. How do you reconcile those things? And what do you think, I guess, the biggest issue or reason or stumbling block or hurdle most clinically oriented chiropractors have that prevent them from having the businesses they deserve?
It's a good question. The first thing, you know, we talked about it today on one of our calls of, is it that you're not good at it, you're not interested in it? And a lot of times with the people that are real clinically focused, one thing that I try to bring to attention to them is that don't tell me you're not good at business or good at marketing, good at sales. It's just you haven't spent time on it. And believe it or not, after they get introduced to it, a lot of them like it. The problem for most is that they went to chiropractic school and they sort of, like most of us, saw the good guys and the bad guys. And the bad guys made all the money and the good guys were just resigned to the fact that, oh, we're going to do the right thing by people and, quotes, help people. And they forget that they should actually help themselves, which then allows them to help others as well. You know, to get even more tactical into it, something that we focus a ton on is that sort of sales and communication piece, which when I speak to rehab chiros now, one of the things that I have to tell them is, first of all, selling is not a bad thing. You just don't really know how to do it. And we can do it in a way that's curious, that's empathetic, and that's just being the right thing for the right person. And so once we sort of wrap people's head around that, and that they're actually doing right by people, and sometimes that means not treating them, they're more comfortable with it and they become excited about actually getting a person in front of them that they can help and charging, quote unquote, what they're worth or the right price to make it work.
Hey, Doc, do you have an email list of 300, 500 or more? If so, please connect with our team at thesmartchiropractor.com. With Patient Pilot, we can activate that email list and start generating reactivations into your practice each and every week. To schedule a demo and learn more, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. But right now, we'll head back over into this awesome interview on Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor. That makes sense to me. I'm going to ask a super basic question, but I want you to set the stage here. How do you define a rehab chiro?
For us in our world, if I talk to another rehab chiro, it's going to be world-class business, world-class clinical skills, right? That's how we talk about it. As I look at the profession, I know you guys have been doing it way longer than I have.
Thank you, I think.
Well, more experience. I always looked at it as...
That means you're old, Jeff. I'm older.
One day I'll be there, hopefully not soon though, right? I look at the progressive chiropractors from a decade or 15 years ago were the ones doing soft tissue. And that was sort of the next step from just doing adjustments. And then I graduated in 2012, and our group was really excited that we could actually do rehab with people and exercise and progressed CrossFitters, not just crack their back, but actually work them from the time that they came in with lower back pain all the way up to the point that we're going to get them in a position to actually be able to like do a deadlift. We're not a trainer, but we have the clinical knowledge and potentially the physical knowledge to be able to work with people in the point where we're going to put them in a position so that they don't have that problem. And now even more, as I've been doing more coaching and consulting, the groups coming out of school now, there's even more of that type but a lot of them came from an exercise science background. They came from a training background, and they don't want to be just trainers anymore, which is why they went back to school, but they don't want to just throw all that away. And so I think for me, and again, I'm biased, but I think it's the best way for our type of patient to be able to treat them, to be able to do all the hands-on, to be able to do the manual therapy, to be able to do the adjustments, and then also walk with people back into whatever the activity or sport that they want and not just talk about it.
That's good stuff. You know, one of the things Jeff and I talk about in the Payday Practice is the concept of memberships and subscriptions. And I'm curious how you think about and what programs you actually have to really make the distinction, I'll say, sort of between, acute care in the beginning where, somebody might need a specific amount of care for a specific symptom or rehab program. But then the lifestyle of it, the idea most athletes know is you don't just, get out of pain and then go done, but there's a whole performance aspect to it. Number one, how do you think about it? And then number two, how do you build your business around that so it's accessible and understandable for consumers to maybe start with one and then graduate into the other?
It's a great question. It's something that over the years we've sort of had to solve ourselves. Our associate doc here, Dr. Ashton Billamoria, he kind of runs our practice now as I've stepped back. And a few years ago, we were talking about patient visit average and metrics in the practice. And he said to me, he's like, I don't understand how I should treat people for more sessions if we already solved their problem. I was like, that's a really good problem, and I don't know the answer, right? So what we came to the conclusion of, and to give the audience maybe some objective measures, what we sort of said was, listen, someone's going to come in because they have back pain and they want to get back to deadlifting, right? And we know we think it takes them about 12 visits. That's their plan, so to speak. If we believe by the end of that plan that they're about 90% to that goal, we're not going to offer them another one of the same thing. We need to offer them something different. And to your point, that's where we decided that the performance, the maintenance, the year of care type plan comes into play, where now the game and the goal changes. Now we're just not focused on getting out of pain and getting back to deadlifting. Now, I just keep using that example, a CrossFitter, it might be on working to gain more hip external rotation or working on more core stability so that at the bottom of their deadlift, they can create more intra-abdominal pressure that in a workout setting, they're not going to do because they're working out. And so, I learned this concept going through like TPI programs that they have an assessment process. And the thing that they preach in the assessment process is you should always be assessing. If you have a guy that plays golf 3-4 days in a row, gets on a plane and flies across the country, his assessment might look a lot different. And so just because we sort of fix the problem, people are going back into life and sport, and they're naturally going to hopefully not have as bad of an injury, but they're going to come back with things and stuff that we want to keep an eye on for them so that they can perform at a high level or so that they don't go backwards into the pain.
But more specifically, you had mentioned you have sort of different types of membership programs when people graduate their acute care. Can you share some insight into how that works in your practice?
Yeah. And again, something else we just changed as well. Something that like I've just learned in business is the trident approach to anything, right? You have give people options, but not too many. And so when we started doing a membership model for a long time, it was like, hey, do you want it or you don't? And it's like they either say yes or they say no. It was like they can do one session a month or that was the program. And they either say yes or say no. And in the past 2 months, what we realized was like, that's not how we understand this. And so now we use a trident approach where, hey, this is a really good option for you. Which option would you like? Do you want 1 session a month, 2 sessions a month, 4 sessions a month? And so now instead of them saying, yes, I do or no, I don't, they can say, which one do I want? And so that's an evolution that we've had over time that we put into play. Just again, it's one of those things where it's like, I learned this, I know this, I use it in other businesses, and I wasn't even doing it in my own. So
you nailed the point that I think is just blows my mind about so many, sports chiropractic practices is like, it's almost this, and it sounds like you are directly leading the charge on solving some of these issues, which are, there's almost like this badge of courage for the lowest PVA possible, which makes no logical sense whatsoever, especially with modern lifestyle. And the irony that quite often the docs that want to work well, and I speak this as somebody who worked in multiple practices and helped build empty referral, it's just the people that want to work with the medical community the most, drive their PVA into the ground and are referring out super early for all this other, like more of their patients are having advanced interventions than anybody else. And it just like drips with irony into me. And I'm like, this is absolute insanity. Yet it's the world of chiropractic that we live in. So I commend you on taking on the Herculean task of really helping more of the pain, rehab, symptomatic relief type docs, understanding that people go on with their lives. Gravity continues to take a toll. People go back to the same habits, etc. So kudos to you for taking that on, because I think it's a it's a critical component with a patient first approach. That's what they actually need. Duh, believe it or not, of course.
I think the other part too is in our world as like doing rehab, the thing there's a book titled For the Sins of Our Father. The problem that we have is that they look at the chiropractors before us and they're doing 50 sessions of maintenance, which for them was that their skill set was adjusting patients back. And honestly, I'm not that opposed to it, because like for some people, that's the best they take care of themselves. But I understand why someone in our profession doing rehab wouldn't like that. And the point is that we are not them. So like if I adjust someone on the first visit or the 10th visit, I'm then going to progress them into exercise. I have so many more tools in my belt than the guy. So I don't compare myself to him because I'm not him or her. So it's not even the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the assessment and the progression, I think that you touched on with TPI is important. Jason and I spent some time out in Southern California with Greg and his team. And that's, whether you're doing a movement assessment monthly or bi-monthly, whether you're going through whether it be DNS, SFMA, whatever you're using for an assessment tool, I like that as a piece of the maintenance program as well, because you get to, as they would say in the literature, predict and potentially prevent future episodes of challenge, because you're able to identify things before they become symptomatic, which is what's one of the most important things I think we can do as healthcare providers, as doctors, teachers, healthcare educators for our community. One of the things I want to ask you about that, about out in your community, is you mentioned utilizing modern channels, social media, email, etc., to get out there with your practice. How are you thinking about content creation, promotion, marketing today? And how do you think rehab docs specifically should be considering it?
I think that it should be a channel, not the channel. And so generationally, something I've seen the graduates coming out, and part of it is not their fault. They've grown up in a world where they literally lived their life in school online for like 2 or 3 years. And so some of them believe that the way to build a business only is via like online. And for some businesses, if you're in an online business, that's true. But if you are building a brick and mortar practice in a community, it still is, we got to get on the community. Now, here's, I think, where it works together. We all are utilizing social media in a capacity, and it is a way to build trust, just not the way to build trust. So let's just say tomorrow or Friday, I'm going to go, our team is going to go to a CrossFit gym and do a lecture that we're going to do a lecture on Friday. So we do our lecture, and now we know that there's an audience of 10, 12 people that are going to come to this lecture, and some of them might come to us right away, but some of them might not. But most of them are going to follow us on Instagram. And so that's a way that they're going to start to see a little bit more about us. So, hey, they met us, they liked what we said, but they didn't have a problem, they weren't ready yet, whatever the case may be. And so, but now they're going to see our stuff and they're going to say, hey, you know what? I like these guys. They're fun. They're nice. And you know what? That guy looks like a shoulder that's like mine. And maybe 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18, 24, they finally say, I'm coming on in to see you. The best thing the line we ever got was, we had a new patient call years ago. And they said, oh, how did you find us? And they said, I just see Justin everywhere. It's like, beautiful. I did my job, right? They met me in person. I was at a gym. Then they saw me on Instagram and they got an email. And it's like that, all different channels that I think it's never just one, right? It's going to be multiple in person, online. So we try to think about it in those terms that it's a way, not the way.
Hey, it's Dr. Jason. I just want to take a brief moment and invite you to schedule a demo with our team to learn more about our patient pilot automated email campaigns. They are the smartest way to reactivate the people you've seen over the years in the past. Check it out, schedule a demo. We look forward to helping you help more people and piloting your patients back into your practice. Now back to our show. I love it. We dropped the word email several times. How do you think about email campaigns with your patients, potentially with potential new patients? And while I'm asking you that, I'm also going to ask you, what are your thoughts on recommending your favorite products, different recommendations for things people should be taking, people should be using? Do you think about offering them yourself? Do you recommend they recommend things and have them go buy them somewhere else? How do you use email, and how do you recommend the things that people you recommend most?
So I will say, Jason, one thing we're really good at, probably like the best in class. The other thing we're really bad at, and I'm just being honest. So we have a rule, and I teach my team this and our email this. How long do you follow up with someone that said no? The answer is until they tell you to stop or you read their obituary.
That's right. Buy or die.
That's it. And people laugh and they think it's funny, but it's true, right? And again, you guys know this. We've had people that they say yes, they say no. I had to get my teeth fixed and COVID and this and that and the other. And a year later, hey, thank you so much for being there. I'm ready. Let's go. Right. And a couple $1,000 later, and they solved their problem, and we can help them because we were there. You know, it's one of those things where I always tell people we're going to be successful because we're willing to do it longer than anyone else is. Like most people, you know, we had an in-person event, 35 chiropractors 2 weeks ago. It was amazing. And I said, if someone says no to you guys, what happens next? And the room went silent. And I was like, that's the problem, right? That's the problem. And for us, it's like, if someone says no, it's like, good. That's why we have jobs. I tell my team all the time, I was like, our sales team, our admin team, our marketing team, it's like, if everyone just said yes all the time, you guys wouldn't have jobs. So that's great that they say no. It would be over, right? That's why you're here. That's the point of all this. Jason, to answer your other question, you know, you guys know what you focus on is what you do well. So we've done pillows and we've done different things that are actually really good products. And when we're focused on a campaign, you know, we'll sell 25 pillows in a month. And then when we don't talk about it, we're worried about a referral program or something else, we don't do a great job at it. And so for us, it is one of those things that if I was coaching someone or I was mentoring them, I would say, if you're going to do it, you got to do it, right? You can't just put things in your front and expect people to buy it. This isn't Walmart, right? And so anything in our bit, we've learned over time, it's like, if we're going to do it, we have to do it well or don't do it at all. Because when we do it halfway, it doesn't work. And then we say it doesn't work. And the reality is it's that we didn't work it.
That is 100% right. We'll have to talk offline about some of the e-commerce stuff we have going on. It might be a perfect fit for your practice, because it really is about reducing that inventory while still being able to curate a really great product selection. Justin, I know we are going to be up against it momentarily here, but I want to give the opportunity for everybody listening and or watching. Where can they learn more? I think you're in the podcasting realm. I know you got a bunch of stuff going on for docs that want to connect with you. Where can they go? Shout them out. And we'll also drop all these links that you talk about down in the show notes at production time.
Yeah, we're about a year out of doing the podcast, Business School for the Rehab Chiropractor. It's gotten really good feedback, and probably where most people find me and like know, like, and trust type of thing. It's like, hey, I understand this is great. I want to do this. So I'd recommend the podcast. As I joke with people that call me about my programs, is like, have you listened to the podcast? No. I was like, well, do the free thing before you pay me for it. So if you're out there and you are doing rehab, want to understand how to make money doing it in an ethical, non-sleazy way, I always say start with the podcast. We're making a big push on Instagram, just my name at Justin Rabinowitz, where we post every single day business content. We're getting into reels. We're trying to really explore some different avenues on it. And so those would be sort of the two main things, is the podcast and my Instagram. We do have a website, which is my name as well. But I would say, if what I said is of any interest, start with the podcast or my Instagram. That's where I would go.
Awesome. We will drop those links down below. I'm going to encourage everybody listening and or watching, If you are involved in rehab, and if you're listening or watching, you probably are a chiropractor, get in touch with Justin, get tuned in to what he is up to. Justin, thank you so much for taking time out of your super busy day to hop on and chat with us. And we appreciate your time and appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.